Book 1 of Troilus and Criseyde. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Kevin Johnson. Troilus and Criseyde by Geoffrey Chaucer. Book 1. Book 1. Incipit Liber Primus. The doubla sorwa of Troilus to Telon, that was the king Priamus soon of Troy, in loving how his adventures fallen, fro woe to waila, and after out of joy. My purpose is, ere that ye part fro ye, Theisiphone, thou help me fortendit these woeful verse that wepen as ye read. To thee Clepae, thou goddess of torment, thou cruel fury, sorrowing ever in pain, help me, that am the sorrowful instrument, that helpeth lovers, as he can, to plain. For well seated the south for to sain, a woeful weekt to Hannah dreary fair, and to a sorrowful tala a sorry chair. For he, that God of love's servants serve, ne dar to love, for mean unlikeliness, prayen for spade, all should ye therefore sterve. So fair am I from his help in darkness, but natheless, if this may doen gladness to any lover, and his cause avail, have he me thank, and mean be this travail. But ye lovers, that bathen in gladness, if any drop of pity in yow be, remembereth yow on passed heaviness that ye han felt, and on the adversity of other folk, and thinketh how that ye han felt that love durst yow displease, or ye han won him with too great an ease, and prayeth for him that been in the cause of Troilus, as ye may after hear, that love him bring in heaven to solace, and eke for me prayeth to God so dear, that ye have meeked to show in so manner, switch pain and woe as love's folks endure, in Troilus unsaily aventure, and biddeth eke for him that been despaired in love, that never nil recovered be, and eke for him that falsely been appaired, thorough wicked tongues, be it he or she. Thus biddeth God for his benignity, so grant him soon out of this world to pass, that been despaired out of love's grace. And biddeth eke for him that been at ease, that God him grant a good perseverance, and send him meek dear ladies so to please, that it to love be worship and plaisance. For so hope ye me soul best avance, to pray for him that love's servants be, and read her woe, and live in charity. And for to have of him compassion, as though he were her own brother dear, now hearkeneth with a good intention, for now will I gone straight to my matter, in which she may the double sorrows hear of Troilus in loving of Criseyde, and how that she forsook him ere she died. It is well wist how that the Greek is strong, in arms with 1,000 shippes went to Troye wards, and the cité longa assegeden, nay, 10 year ere they stent, and in diverse wise and unentante, the ravishing to reckon of Elaine, by Paris dune they rockten all through pain. Now feel it so, that in the down there was dwelling a lord of great auctority, a great divine, that cleped was Calchas, that in science so expert was, that he knew well that Troy shoulde destroyed be, by answer of his God, that hecta thus down Phoebus or Apollo Delphicus. So when this Calchas knew by calculing, and eke by answer of this Apollo, that Gracchus shoulden switch a people bring, through which that Troya moste been fordo, he casta noon out of the town to go, for well wiste he by sort that Troya shoulde destroyed been, yea, wold whoso nolde. for which for to departen softly took purpose full this folk-knowing wiese, and to the Graecus oast full privily he stole anon, and they in courteous wise him deden both worship and service, in truth that he hath conning him to rede in every peril which that is to dread. The noise uprose when it was first espied through all the town, and generally was spoken that Calchas traitor fled was, and allied with him of grace, and cast into bane broken on him that falsely had his faith so broken. And Satan, he and all his keen at ones, been worthy for to brennen, fell and bones. Now had a Calchas left in this mischance, all unweest of this false and wicked deed, his doctor, which that was in great penance, for of her lief she was full sore and dread, as she that neest what was base to rede. For both a widower was she, and alone of any friend to whom she durst her moan. Criseyde was this laddie name areekt, as to me dome in all Troilus cité, nas noon so far, for passing every weekt, so angelique was her native beauty, that liketh in immortal seemed she, as doth an heavenish perfect creature, that down were sent in scorning of nature. This laddie, which that all day heard at air her father's shame, his falseness and treason, well meek out of her wheat for sorrow and fair, in widower's habit large of samite brown, on knees she filled before Hector down, with piteous voice, and tenderly weeping, his mercy bad, herself excusing. Now was this Hector piteous of nature, and saw that she was sorrowfully begone, and that she was so fair a creature, of his goodness he gladed her anon, and said, Let your father's treason gone forth with mischance, and ye yourself in joy dwelleth with us, will ye good least in Troy. And all thonor that men may doen jou have, as fair forth as your father dwelled here, ye shall han, and your body shall men save, as fair as ye may ocht enquire or hair. And she him thanked with full humble cheer, and ofter wolde, and it had been his will, and took her leave, and whom, and held her still. And in her house she abode with sweet mene, as to her honour nede was to hold, and while she was dwelling in that cité, kept her estate, and both of young and old, full well beloved, and well men of her told. But whether that she children had or none, I read it not, therefore I lat it gone. The thing is felon as they doen of were, betwixen him of Troy and Graecus ofte, for some day brochten they of Troy it dere, and eft the Graecus found in nothing softe the folk of Troy. And thus fortune on lofte and under eft, gan him to wailen both after her course, I will they were wroth. But how this town come to destruction, ne falleth not to purpose me to tell, for it were a long digression from my matter, and yet too long a dwell. But the Trojan gestes as they fell, in Omer or in Dares or in Dita, whoso that can may read him as they read. But though that the Greek is him of Troy shaten, and her city besieged all about, her older usage wolde they not laten, as for to honour her goddess a full devout, but oldermost in honour, out of doubt, they had a relic hiegt Palladion, that was her treatise above an average on. And so befell, one common was the tema of April, when clothed is the maide with newe grain, of lusty ver the prima, and swote smellen flowers wheat and rede, in sundry wieses showed as he rede, the folk of Troia her observances olde, Palladionis feste for to holde. Unto the Templa in all her beste wiese, in general there went many a week, to hearkening of Plarion service. Anomaly, so many a lusty knecht, so many a laddie fresh and maiden breeked, full well arrayed both the most and least, yea, both for the season and the feast. Among these other folk was Criseyde, in widower's habit black, but nae the lace, reeked as our first letter is now an A, in beauty first so stood she, Makelys, her goodly looking gladade all the praise, nae's never seen thing to been praised dare, nor under cloud a black so breeked a stare, as was Criseyde, as folk said every chone, that her behelden in her black awade, and yet she stood full low and still alone, behinden other folk in little brede, and nae the door a under shames drede, simple of a tear, and debonair of cheer, with full assured looking and manner. This Troilus, as he was wont to guide his younge knechtes, lade him up and down, in thilke large temple on every side, beholding aye the laddies of the town, now here, now there, for no devotion had he to known, to raven him his rest, but gone to praise and lacken whom him laced. And in his walk full fast he gone to waiten, if knecht or square, of his company, gone for to seek, or late his eyen baiten, on any woman that he could espie, he would smile and holden it folly, and say him thus, God wot she sleepeth softe, for love of thee, when thou tornest full ofte. Ye have heard told pardieu of your living, ye lovers, and your lewd observances, and which a labour folk han in winning of love, and in the keeping which doughtances, and when your prey is lost, woe and penances. O very follis, niece and leende be ye, there nis not un can war by other bay. And with that word he gone cast up the brow, ascaunces, Lo, is this nocht weasely spoken? At which the god of love gan loken row, reeked for despite, and shoot for to been roken. He keede known his bow was not broken, for suddenly he hit him at the fulle, and yet as proud a peacock can he pulle. O blinde world, O blinde intention, how oft falleth all the effect contraire of surquidrie and foul presumption, for cocked is proud and cocked is debonair. This Troilus is clomen on the stair, and little wenneth that he moot descenden, but all day falleth thing that falleth nae wenden. As proud Bayard ginneth for to skeepe out of the way, so pricketh him his corn, till he a lash have of the longe weepe. Then thinketh he, though ye prance all beforn, first in the tries, full fat and new ashorn, yet am ye but an horse's law. I moot endure, and with me ferres draw. So fared it by this ferres and proude knecht, though he a worthy kinge's son were, and wende nothing had sweet meekt, against his will that should his heart stare. Yet with a look his heart wex affair, that he that now was most in pride above, wex suddenly most subject unto love. For the ensample taketh of this man, yea, we's a proud and worthy folk is all, to scorn in love which that so soon can. The freedom of your heart is to him thralla. For ever it was, and ever it shall be falla, that love is he that all thing may bind, for may no man fordo the law of kinde. That this be sooth hath praved and doth yet, for this true I jou knowen, alla or somme. Men reden not that folk han greater wet, than they that han be most with love ye known, and strengest folk been therewith overcome. The worthiest and greatest of degree, this was, and is, and yet men shall it see. And truelik it sit well to be so, for elder wisest han therewith been pleased, And they that han been aldermost in woe, with love han been comforted most in aised, and oft it hath the cruel heart apaised, and worthy folk mair worthier of nama, and causeth most to dreaden vice and shama. Now sith it may not godly be withstonde, and is a thing so virtuous and kinde, refuseth not to love for to be bonde, sin as himself in list he may jou binde. The yard is bait that bowen wool and winde, than that breast, and therefore I jou rede to followen him that so well can jou lede. But for to tellen forth in special, as of this kinge's son of which he tolde, and laten other thing collateral, of him thinke I may tale for to holde, both of his joy and of his cares colde, and all his work as touching this matter, for I it gan, I wol thereto referre. Within the temple he went him forth playing, this Troilus of every week debaute, on this laddie and now on that looking, whereso she were of town, or of withoute. And upon cas befell, that thurug arout, his eye perised, and so deep it went, till on Criseyde it smote, and there it stente. And certainly he walks there with a stoned, and gone her bit, behold in thrifty wise. O mercy God, thought he, where hast thou woned, that art so fair and goodly to devise? There with his heart gone to sprade and rease, and softe seeked, lest men meek to him heare, and cocked yane his first playing chair. She nost not with the laste of her stature, but all her limbs so well answering whereunto womanhood, that creature was never lass mannish in seeming, and eke the pure wise of her meaning showed well, that men meeked in her gaze, honour, estate, and womanly noblesse. To Troilus reeked wonder well with Allah, gan for to like her meaning and her chair, which some del Danish was, for she let fall her look a lita sida in switch manner, as sconces. What? May I not stonden here? And after that her looking gone she leekte, that never thought him seen so good a seekte. And of her look in him there gone to quicken so great desire and sweet affection, that in his heart bottom gan to steken of her his fixe and deep impression. And though he erst had poured open down, he was though glad his harness into shrinke, unnethes wiste he how to look or winke. Lo, he that laid himself in so cunning, and scorned him that loved his paines dreen, was full unware that love had his dwelling within the subtile streams of her yane, that suddenly him thought he felt the dean, reeked with her look, the spirit in his heart, blessed be love, that thus can folk converte. She, the sin block, leaking to Troilus, over all a thing, he stood for to behold, ne his desire, ne wherefore he stood thus, he neither chair mad, ne word told, but from afar his manner for to hold, on other thing his look some time he cast, and eft on her will that service last. And after this, not full each all awaped, out of the temple all esilich he went, repenting him that he had ever yaped of love's folk, lest fully the descent of scorn fill on himself, but what he meant, lest it were wist of any manner seed, his woe he gan dissimulen and hide. When he was fro the temple thus departed, he straked noon unto his palace torneth, reeked with her look, thurug shoten and thurug darted, all feigneth he and loosed, that he so yearneth. And all his chair and speche also he borneth, and of love's servants every wheele, himself to at him he gan to smile, and said, Lord, so ye leave all in laste, ye lovers, for the cunningest of yow, that serveth most attentively and best, him did as often harm thereof as prow. Your heere is quite again, yea, God wot how. Not well for well, but scorn for good service. In faith, your ordre is ruled in good wise. In none certain been alla your observances, but it a silly few pointes be. Nay, nothing asketh so great attendances as doth your lay, and that know alla ye. But that is not the worst, as moti thee, but told thee yow the worst point I lave. I said, I sooth, ye wolden at me grave. But talk this, that your lovers oft issue, or else doen of good intention, for oft thy lady will it misconstrue, and deem it harm in her opinion. And yet if she for other enchason be ruth, then shalt thou han a groin anon. Lord, well is him that may be of yow own. But for all this, one that he say his team, he held his peace, none other bow to him gained. For love began his feathers so to leam, that well uneath unto his folk he feigned, that other busy nades him distrained. For woe was him, that what to doen he neist, but bade his folk to goon, where that him laced. And one that he in chambre was alone, he doon upon his beddes feet him sate, and first he gan to seek, and eft to groan, and thought I on her so, withouten late, that as he sate and woke, his spirit made, that he her saw a templa, and all the wheeze reeked of her look, and gan it new a vise. Thus gan he make a mirror of his mind, in which he saw all holy her figure, and that he well could in his heart find, it was to him a reeked good aventure, to love's which one, and if he did his cure, to serve in hair, yet might he fall in grace, or else for one of her servants pass. Imagining that travail nor grama, ne michte for so goodly one, belone as she, ne him for his desire ne charma, all were at least, but imprise and upborn, of all lovers well more than before. Thus argumented he in his ginning, full unavised of his woe coming. Thus took he purpose love's craft to sue, and thought he would welcome privily first to hidden his desire in mew, from every weekly born all outerly, but he might oft recovered be there be, remembering him, that love to weed ye blow, felt bitter fruit, though sweet a seed be so. And over all these yet mucho more he thought, what for to spake, and what to holden in, and what to arten here to love he sought, and on a song anon richt to begin, and gan loud on his sorrow for to win. For with good hope he gan fully assent, Criseyde for to love, and not repent. And of his song knocked only the sentence, as read mean author called Lolulius, but plainly saw what tongue's difference, he dare well saying, in all that Troilus said in his song, lo, every word reeked thus, as he shall saying, and whoso least it here, lo, next this verse, he may it find in here. Cantus Troili. If no love is, O God, what fairly so, and if love is, what thing and which is he? If love be good, from whence cometh my woe? If it be wicked, a wonder thinketh me, when every torment and adversity that cometh of him may to me savoury think, for I thirst, the more that it drink. And if that at mine own loosed brenne, fro whence cometh me wailing and me plaint, if harm agree me, where to plain then, noot ne we unwary that I faint, O quick death, O sweet harm so quaint! How many of they in me switch quantity, but if that ye consenta that it be? And if that ye consenta ye wrongfully complain, ye wees, thus posed to and fro, all sterilis, within a boot me, amid the say, by twixt and windes two, that in contrary stonden evermo. Alas, what is this wonder melody, for hate of cold, for cold of hatey day? And to the God of love thus said he, with piteous voice, O Lord, now yours is my spirit, which that ought yours be. Yow thank ye, Lord, that han me brought to this. But whether goddess or woman ye wis, she be noot, which that ye do me serve, but as for man I will I live and starve. Ye stonden in here een mightily, as in a place unto your virtue digne. Wherefore, Lord, if my service or ye may like yow, so beth to me benigne, for mine stat royal here ye resigne into your hand, and with full humble cheer become her man, as to my lady dear. In him ne deigned sparen blood royale, the fear of love, wherefore God me blessa, ne him forbar in no degree, for all his virtue or his excellent prowess, but held him as his thrall, low in distress, and brende him so in sundry wees I knew, that 60 time a day he lost his hue. So much day by day his owen thought, for loose to hear, gan quicken and increase, that every other charge he set at naught, for thee full oft his hote fear to cease, to seen her goodly look he gan to praise, for there be to being aised well he wende, and aye the ne'er he was, the more he brende. For aye the ne'er the fear, the hotter ease, this trow he knoweth all this company, but where he fair or near, he dare say these, by night or day, for wisdom or folly, his heart, which that is his breast as yea, was I on her, that fairer was to sain than ever were Elaine or Polixenae. Eke of the day there passed not an hour, that to himself 1,000 time he said, Good goodly, to whom serve ye and labour, as ye best can, now wolde God, Criseyde, ye wolden on me row ere that he day. My deare heart, alas, min hele and hewe, and lief is lost, but ye wol on me rowe. Alle other dreades wherein from him flede, both of the assage and his salvation, ne in him desire noon other faunes brede, but argumentes to his conclusion, that she on him wold han compassion, and he to be her man, will he may dure. Lo, here his lief, and from the death his cure. The sharpe showers fell of armes brave, that Hector or his other brethren deden, ne mar him only therefore unis mave, and yet was he, where so men went to oraden, found the beste, and longest time beden their peril was, and did eke such travail in armes, that to thank it was marvile. But for none hate he to the Greekes hade, ne also for the rescus of the town, ne made him thus in armes for to made, but only lo, for this conclusion, to leaken here they bet for his renown, for day to day in armes so he spade, that all the Greekes as the death him drede. And fro this forth though refte him love his slepe, and made his mate his foe, and eke his sorrow gan multiply, that whoso toke keep, it showed in his hue, both eve and morwa. Therefore a title he gan him for to borrow, of other sicknesse, lest of him men wende, that the hot fear of love him brende. And saide he had a favour and fair de miss, but how it was certain, can I not say, if that his laddie understood not this, or feigned here she nist, one of the twae, but well he rede that, by no manner way, ne seemed it as, that she of him rought, nor of his pain, or whatsoever he thought. But then fell to this Troilus such woe, that he was well nigh wooed, for aye his dreade was this, that she some week had loved so, that never of him she would have taken heede, for which him thought he felt his heart a blade. Nay, of his woe ne durste he not begin to tellen it, for all this world to win. But whanna he had a space fro his care, thus to himself, full oft he gone to plain, he saide, O fool, now art thou in the snare, that whilom yappedest at love's pain. Now art thou hent, now knaw thine own chain. Thou were I want each lover reprehende, of thing for which thou canst thee not defende. What will now every lover sayne of thee, if this be weest, but ever in thine absence, lachen in scorn and sayne, Lo, there goeth he, that is the man of so great sapience, that heldest lovers least in reverence. Now thanked be God, he may goon in the dance, of him that love least feebly for to avance. But, O thou woeful Troilus, God wolde, sin thou most loven thirk the destiny, that thou be set where on switch un that shoulder, know all the woe, all lacked her pity, but also cold in love towards thee, thy lady is, as frost in winter mona, and thou fordoon, as snow in fear is sown. God wold ye were arrived in the port of death, to which my sorrow will me lede. Ah, Lord, to me it were a great comfort, then were ye quit of languishing in dreade. For be min heede sorrow ye blow on brede, ye shall be yaped bane 1,000 time, more than that fool, of whose folly men rime. But now help God, and ye sweete for whom I plain, ye cocked ye never weet so fast. O mercy, dear heart, and help me from the deed, for ye will that me leave me lost, more than myself will love yow to me last, and with some friendly look ladeth me sweete, though never more thing ye may be hate. This word is, and full many an other toe he spake, and called ever in his complaint her name, for to tellen her his woe, till nech that he in salte terrors draint. All was for naught, she heard naught his plaint, and one that he bethochte on that folly, 1,000-fold his woe gan multiply. Bewailing in his chambre thus alone, a friend of his that called was Pandara, come unes in own war, and heard him groan, and say his friend in switch distress and care, Alas, quod he, who causeth all this fare? O mercy God, what unhap may this mena? Han now the sun Greekes mad jaulena? Or hast thou some remorse of conscience, and art now fall in some devotion, and wailest for thy sin and thine offence, and hast forfared cocked attrition? God save him that besieged han our town, and so can lay our loyalty on praise, and bring our lusty folk to holiness. These words said he for the none is all, that with which thing he meeked him angry maken, and with an anger doon his sorrow fall. As for the team and his courage awaken, but well he wist, as fair as tongue is speken, then as a man of greater hardiness than he, ne more desired worthiness. What cause, quod Troilus, or what aventure hath guided thee to see me languishing, that am refuse of every creature? But for the love of God at me praying, go hen away, for certes my dying will they disease, and I mote nedes day. Therefore go away, there is no more to say. But if thou win ye be thus sick for dreade, it is not so, and therefore scorn nocht. There is another thing ye talk of heide, well more than ocht the Greekes han ye wrought, which cause ease of me death, for sorrow and thought. But though that I now tell thee in nae leiste, be thou nocht ruth, ye heed it for the beste. This pandare, that naig malt for woe and routh, full often said, Alas, what may this be? Now, friend, quod he, if ever love or troth hath been, or is betwixten thee and me, ne do thou never switch a cruelty, to heed fro thee friend so great a cara. Wist thou not well that it am Pandara? He will parten with thee all the pain, if it be so we do thee no comfort, as it is friend is reeked, so for to sain, to enter part in woe as glad they sport. Ye have and shall for true or false report, in a wrong and reeked ye loved thee all me leave, hid not thy woe from me, but tell it believe. Lan gone the sorrowful Troilus to seek, and said him thus, God lave it be my best, to tell it thee, for sith it may thee leak, yet will I tell it, though mine heart braced. And well wot I thou mayst do me no rest, but lest thou deem I trust not to thee. Now hearkna, friend, for thus it start with me. Love against the which whoso defendeth himself in most, him alder least availeth, with despair so sorrowfully me offendeth, that straked unto the death mine heart saileth, there to desire so brenningly me assaileth, that to being slain it were a greater joy to me than King of Grace being and Troy. Sufficeth this, me full friend Pandara, that ye have said, for now woe my woe, and for the love of God me called the cara, so heed it well, ye tell it never to mow, for harm is meek to following, more than twoe. If it were weest, but be thou in gladness, and let me starve, unknow of me distress. How hast thou thus unkindly and longe hid this from me, thou fool? Quoth Pandarus. Parantur thou meekt after switch longe, that mean avisa noon may helpen us. This were a wonder thing, quoth Troilus, but thou couldst never in love thyselven wisa, how devil mayest thou bring in me to please? Yea, Troilus, now hearka, quoth Pandare, though I be niece it happeth oft so, that only excess doth full evil fare, by good counsel can keep his friend therefro. I have myself eke seen a blind man go, thereas he fell that could look weeda. A fool may eke a wise man ofte guide. A whetstone is no carving instrument, and yet it maketh sharper carving toilers. And there thou woost that I have oft miswent, show thou that, for which thing to thy school is, thus oft wise men been war by follies. If thou do so, thy wit is well bewared, by his contrary is everything declared. For how meek ever sweetness have be knowa to him that never tasted bitterness? Nay, no man may be inly glad, I trow, that never was in sorrow or some distress. Eke wheat by black, be shame eke worthiness, eke set be other, more for other sameth, as men may say, and so the wise it dameth. Sith thus of two contraries is a lore, I that have in love so oft assayed grievances, ocht a corner, and well the more counsel in thee, of that thou art a maid, eke thee ne ocht not been evil paid, though I desire with thee for to bear thine heavy charge, it shall the loss adere. I woot well that it fareth thus be me, as to the brother Paris and Herdesa, which that I claped was Oenone, wrought in a complaint of her heaviness. Ye say the latra that she wrote Igasa? Nay, never yet I wis, quoth Troilus. Now, quoth Pandare, hearkeneth it was thus. Phoebus that first found art of medicine, quod she, and could in every wictus cara remedy and raid, by herbes he knew fina, yet to himself his cunning was full bara, for love had him so bounden in a snara, all for the doctor of the king admette, that all his craft ne could his sorrow abette. Richt so far unhappily from me, love best, and that me smarteth sore, and yet parantur can rede they, and not myself reprave me no more. Have no cause, wot well for to sorrow, as doth an ox that listeth for to play, but to thine help yet somewhat can he say. And of o thing richt seeker mayst thou be, that certain, for to daen in the pain, that he shall never mo discover in thee, nay, be me trouth, keep not restrain, they, fro they love, though that it were Elaine, that is thy brother's wife, if it wist. Be what she be, and love her as they least. Therefore as friend fulik in me assure, and tell me plot, what is thine enchaison, and final cause of woe that ye endure. For doubteth no thing mean intention, nis knock to yow of reprehension, to spake as now, for no wight may bereave a man to love, till that him list to lave. And weeteth well that both two ben vices mistrusten all or else all a lave, but well he wot, the main of it no vice is, for to trust in some wight is a prave of troth, and for thee wold thee fain remove thy wrong conceit, and do thee some wight trist, thy woe to tell, and tell me if thee least. The wise saith, woe him that is alone, for, and he fall, he hath known help to rease, and sith thou hast a fellow, tell thy moan, for this nis not certain, the next wise to win in love, as teachen us the wise, to walwa and wape as Nile be the queen, whose terrors yet in marble be ne seen. Lot be the weeping and the dreariness, and let us listen woe with other speech, so may the woeful team same malesa, delete not in woe thy woe to seich, as doon this fools, that hear sorrows age with sorrow, when they han misaventure, and listen not to seich hem other cure. Men saying, to rage is consolation, to have another fellow in his pain. That ocht well been our opinion, for both thou and of love we plain, so full of sorrow am sought for to sain, that certainly no more hard grace may sit on me, for why there is no space. If God wool thou art not aghast of me, lest I wool of thy lady thee beguile, thou wost thyself whom that love pardie, as he best can goon sithen long wheela, and sith thou wost I do it for no weal, and sith I am he that thou tristeth most, tell me somewhat, sin all my woe thou wost. Yet Troilus for all these no word said, but long he lay as still as he did were, and after this with seeking he abraid, and to Pandarus' voice he lent his ear, and up his eyen cast he, that in fear was Pandarus, lest that in frenzy he should fall, or else sooner die, and cried, awake full wonderly and sharpa, what, slumberest thou as in a lethargy, or art thou like an ass to the harp that heareth sound, one man the stringers ply, but in his mind of that no melody may sinken him to glada, for that he so dull is of his bestiality. And with that, Pandora of his words stenta, and Troilus yet him no word answered, for why to tell as not his entanta, to never no man, for whom that he so fared. For it is said, man maketh oft a yard, with which the maker is himself ye baten in sundry manner, as these wise traten, anomaly in his counsel telling, that toucheth love that octa be secree. For of himself it would he knocked out springa, but if that it the bet governed be, eke some team it is craft to same a flee, for thing which in effect men hunte fast, all this gone Troilus in his heart cast. But natheless, when he had heard him cry, awak, he gan to seek wonder sore, and said, Friend, though that I still thee, I am not deaf, now peace, and cry no more, for I have heard thy words and thy lore, but suffer me my mischief to bewail, for thy proverbs may me not avail. Nor other cure canst thou noon for me, ik I will not be cured, I will die. What know I of the Queen Niobe? Let be thine old ensamples, I they pray. No, quod thou Pandarus, therefore I say, sweet is the lead of fools, to bewape her woe, but second bout they ne keep. Now know I that their reason in they faileth, but tell me, if I wist that she were, for whom that thee all this misaunter aileth, durstest thou that I told her in her ear thee woe, sith thou darest not thyself forfare, and her besought on thee to handsome routh? Why nay, quod he, by God and by my troth. What? Not as easily, quod Pandarus, as though mine own leaf lay on this nade? Nay, certes, brother, quoth this Troilus, and we. For that thou shouldest never spade. Wist thou that well? Yea, that is out of dread. Quoth Troilus, for all that ever ye cone, she nil to noon switch wretche as I be one. Quoth Pandarus, alas, what may this be, that thou despaired art, thus causalis? What, liveth not thy lady? Benedicte. How wist thou so that thou art gracilis? Switch evil is not alvi botalis. Why, but not impossible does the cure, sin thing to come is oft in aventura. I grant well that thou endurest woe, as sharp as doth he, Tychius in Ella, whose stomach fowls tyrann evermore, that heeked vulturis, as Bocchus tella. But I may not endure that thou dwell in so unskilful an opinion, that of thee woe is no curation. But ons nil tau for thy coward heart, and for thine ear and foolish wilfulness, for one trust telling of thy sorrow's smart, nay to thine own help to busyness, as much as spake a reason more or less, but least as he that least of no thing rake. What woman could love such a rake? What may she damon other of thee deeth, if thou thus die, and she not we it is, but that for fair is olden up thee breathe, for Gracchus han besieged us, I wis. Lord, which I thank then shalt thou han of these. Thus will she saying, and all the town at once, the wretche is deed, the devil have his bonus. Thou mayst alone here wape and cry and knele, but love a woman that she woted knocked, and she will quite that thou shalt not fail, unknowe, unkiest, and lost that is unsocked. What? Many a man hath love full dearly balked, 20 winter that his laddie wist, that never yet his laddie moth he kissed. What, should be therefore fallen in despair, or be recrowned for his own tain, or slain himself, all be his laddie fair? Nay, nay, but ever in own be fresh and green, to serve and love his dear heart's queen, and think it is a guerdon here to serve, 1,000-fold more than he can deserve. Of that word took heed Troilus, and thought anon what folly he was in, and how that sooth him said Pandarus, that for to slain himself maked he not win, but both doon on manhood and a sin, and of his day his lady not to weet, for of his woe, God woot, she knew for leet. And with that thought he gan full sore seek, and said, alas, what is me best to do? To whom Pandara answered, if thee leek, The best is that thou tell me thy woo, and have my troth, but thou it fiende so, ye be thy bote, or that it be for longe, 2 paces do me draw, and sit in harm. Yea, so thou sayest, quoth Troilus, though, alas, but God wot, it is not the rather so, full hard were it to helpen in this cause, for well fiende ye that fortune is my foe. May all the men that reading corner go, may of her cruel wheel the harm withstonde, for, as her least, she playeth with free and bonde. Quoth Pandarus, then blamest thou fortune, for thou art ruth? Yea, now at erst I see. Wist thou not well that fortune is commune to every manner weak in some degree? And yet thou hast this comfort, lo, pardie, that, as her joys moten overgoon, so mote her sorrows passen every chune. For if her wheel stint anything to torn, then ceased she fortune anon to be. Now, sith her wheel by no way may so yorn, but wast thou, if here mutability, wreaked as thyself in list, will doen by thee, or that she be not fair fro thine helping, perantur, thou hast cause for to sing. And therefore wost thou but I thee beseech, let be thy woe and turning to the ground, for whoso list have helping of his leche, to him behoveth first on his wound, to Cerberus in hell I be a bound, were it for my suster all thy sorrow. By my will she should all be thine tomorrow. Look up, I say, and tell me what she is, anon, that I may goon about thy need, knowe each her oct. For me love, tell me this, then will thee hopen rather for to spade. Though gone the vein of Troilus to blade, for he was heat, and wex all read for shame. Aha, quoth Pandari, here beginneth Gama. And with that word he gan him for to shaka, and said, Thief, thou shalt her name talla. But thou gan saily Troilus for to quake, as though men should han laid him into hella, and said, Alas, of all me woe the wella, then is my sweet foe called Criseyde, and well neeked with the word for fair he dade. And one that Pandara heard her name nevene, Lord, he was glad, and said, Friend so dear, now for I reeked, for love is nam in heaven, love hath beset thee well, be of good cheer, for of good nam and wisdom and manner she hath enoch, and eke of gentilesse, if she be fair, thou wost thyself ye guesse. Nay, I never saw a more bounteous of her estate, nay a gladder, nay of speech a friendlier, nay a more gracious for to do well, nay lasse had a nay to sage but for to doen, and all this bait to each, in honour, to as far as she may stretch, a king's heart seemeth by his arreche. And for the loke of good comfort thou be, for certainly the first point is this, of noble courage, and well ordain, a man to have peace with himself he wis. So oughtest thou, for naught but good it is to love and well, and in a worthy place. Thee ought not to clape it hap, but grass. And also think, and therewith gladde thee, that sith thy lady virtuous is all, so followeth it that there is some pite among us all these other in general, and for thy see that thou in special require not that is again her name, for virtue stretcheth not himself to shame. But well is me that ever that I was born, that thou be set art in so good a place, for by me truth, in love I durst have sworn, thee should never hand tidus faire grace, and wost thou we, for thou were wont to chase at love and scorn, and for dispute him call, Saint Idiot, Lord of these fools all. How often hast thou mad in these apes, and said, that love's servants every John of nicety being very good as apes, and some a world moncha her mate alone, ligging a bede, and make him for to groan, and some thou saidest had a blanche faveur, and praydest God he should never caver. And some of him took on him, for they colde, more than enoch, so saidest thou full ofte, and some hen feigned of team and tolde, how that they wake, when they sleepen softe, and thus they wold and brocht himself alofte, and nevertheless were under at the laste, thus saidest thou, and yepedest full faste. Yet saidest thou, that for the more part these lovers wolden spake in general, and thochten that it was a secret art for failing, for to essayen over all. Now may he yape of thee, if that he shall, but natheless, doch that he shoulde day, that thou art none of thou that durst he say. Now beat thy breast, and say to God of love, thy grace, Lord, for now he may repent it, if he misspake, for now myself he love. Thus say with all thine heart and good intent. Quoth Troilus, ah, Lord, he may consent, and pray to thee me yapes thou forgive, and he shall never more will he leave. Thou sayest well, quoth Pandora, and now we hope that thou the goddess wrath hast all appeased, and sithen thou hast wapen many a drop, and said switch thing wherewith thy God is pleased. Now would never God but thou were aised, and think well, she of whom rest all thy woe, hereafter may thy comfort be also. For thilke ground that beareth the weedest week, beareth eke these wholesome herbes, as full oft, next the foul nettle, rocked and thick, the rose waxeth, sweet and smooth and soft. And next the valley is the hill aloft, and next the dark neekt, the glade morwa, and also joy is next the feen of sorwa. Now look at that a tempera be thy bridal, and for the best suffre to the tide, or else all our labour is on idle. He hasteth well that easily can abide. Be diligent and true, and will heed. Be lusty, free, persevere in the service, and all is well if thou work in this wise. But he that parted is in every place, is nowhere whole, as written clerk is wise. What wonder is, though which one have no grace, equal stow how it fareth of some service, as plant a tree or herb in sundry wise, and on the morwa pull it up as believe. No wonder is, though it may never thrive. And sith that God of love hath thee bestowed in place dignity unto thee worthiness, stand fast, for to good port hast thou rowed, and of thyself for any heaviness hope our way well, for but if dreariness or overhast or both labour shende, ye hope of this to make in a good end. And wost thou ye am the last afeared of this matter with my niece a trait? For this have ye heard said of wheezy laird, was never man ne woman yet beget, that was unapt to suffer and love as hate, celestial or else love of kind, for thee some grace ye hope in her to find. And for to speak of her in special, her beauty to be thinken and her youth, it sit her not to be celestial, as yet, though that her least both in coth, but truly it said her well reeked north, a worthy kneek to loven and cherish, and what she do, ye hold it for a vice. Wherefore ye am and will be I ready to pain me to do you the service, for both of you to please, thus hope ye, hereafterward, for ye both the wise, and con it counsel keep in switch a wise, that no man shall the wiser of it be, and so we may be gladded all a three. And be my troth, ye have reeked now of thee a good conceit in my wheat, as I guess. And what it is, I will now that thou say, I think, sith that love of his goodness hath thee converted out of wickedness, that thou shalt be the best posty laver of all his lay, and most his foes to grave. On supple we see now these wise clerkes, that erin aldermost again a law, and being converted from her wicked workes, through grace of God, the list him to him draw, then on they folk that han most God in awe, and strongest faith at bane, ye understand, and con an error all their best withstand. When Troilus had heard Pandora assented to bane his help in loving of Criseyde, wex of his woe, as who saith untormented, but hotter wex his love, and thus he said, with sober cheer, although his heart blade. Now blissful Venus helpe, ere that he starve, of thee, Pandora, he may some thank deserve. But, dear friend, how shall mine woe be lace, till this be done? And gode, ik tell me these, how wilt thou sing of me in me distress, lest she be wroth, this dreading most ye wace, or nil not hear or trowen how it is, all this dreade ye, and eke for the manner of thee, her aim, she nil no switch thing here. Quod Pandarus, thou hast a full great cara, lest that the churl may fall out of the mona. We, Lord, ye hata of that the nisa fara, we entremat of that thou hast to don, for God is love, he bidded thee a bona. So laugh me alone, and it shall be thy best. Why, friend, quod he, now do reeked as thy least. But harke, Pandora, O word for enolde, that thou in me wendest so great folly, that to me lady it is erin shoulder that toucheth harm or any villainy, for dreade less may were ye ver die, than she of me aught else understand, but that meeked sonen into God. And thou loch this Pandari, and anon answered, and I thy bore, fie, no weak doth but so, I rauchth nacht thou, that she stod and heard, how that thou sayest, but farewell, I will go. Adieu, be glad, God spade us both the twoe. Give me this labour and this busyness, and of me spade be thine all that sweetness. Though Troilus gan down on knees to falle, and Pandora in his armes hente fast, and said, now fie on the Greek is all, yet pardie, God shall help us at the last, and dread lease, if that me lief may last, and God to form. Lo, some of him shall smerte, and yet me thinketh that this avaunt me a start. Now, Pandora, ye can no more say, but thou wees, thou wost, thou mayst, thou art all. My lief, me death, who'll in thine bond I lay, help now, quod he. Yes, by my troth ye shall. God yield thee, friend, and this in special, quod Troilus, that thou me recommend to her that to thee death may make command. This Pandarus, though desirous to serve his full friend, then said in this manner, farewell, and thank I will thy thank deserve. Have here my troth, and that thou shalt well hear. And went his way, thinking on this matter, and how he best meeked her beseech of grace, and fiend a team thereto and a place. For every week that hath an house to found, ne renneth not the work for to begin, with rackle hand, but he will bide a stand, and send his heart as lean, out fro within, alder first his purpose for to win. All this Pandora in his heart thought, and cast his work for wisely, or he rocked. But Troilus lay thou no longer down, but up anon up on his steed a bay, and in the field he played the lion. Woe was that Greek that with him made that day, and in the town his manner though forth high, so goodly was, and gat him so in grace, that each him loved that looked on his face. For he become the friendliest weaked, the gentlest, and eke the most affray, the thriftiest and oon the beste kneeked, that in his team was, or meek to be. Data were his japes and his cruelty, his haig port and his manner is strange, and each of though gone for a virtue change. Now let us stint of Troilus astound,
that fareth like a man that hurt his sore, and is some dell of aching of his wound illicit well, but hailed no dell more, and as an easy patient the lore a bit of him that goeth about his cure, and thus he driveth forth his aventure. Explicit liber primus. End of Book 1. Recording by Kevin Johnson.